coming, the drums rum-tumming everywhere. So prepare, say a prayer, send the word to beware. We'll be over, we're coming over, and we won't come back till it's over, over there, over there, over there. Send the word over.
Hey everybody, thanks so much for joining us here on the Veterans for Cannabis podcast. I'm your host, Joshua Littrell. I'm extremely excited to bring a really great guest to the table today. KELLEN CARR is not a veteran, but she is an amazing asset to our community, our state of Georgia here where we're at, and from a legislative standpoint. So KELLEN, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well, Joshua. Thanks for asking. No complaints here. It is chilly, but otherwise good weather, and so things are going well. Thank you.
Absolutely. Well, it's a pleasure to have you on board. You know, and the great thing about the Veterans for Cannabis podcast is we have, guests from all different backgrounds and experiences. And a lot of times the civilians that we bring on bring a huge impact to our veteran community by what they can offer as far as education and information goes. And, when I asked you to be a guest on this Veterans for Cannabis podcast today, it was really based on what you've done, your body of work itself, and the line of work that you're in. KELLEN, you're a lobbyist, is that correct?
That is correct. So
when we think about lobbying, KELLEN, tell us, what does that mean? When people think about lobbyists, they think all the negativity with, D.C., it's run by lobbyists and blah, 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 blah. But lobbyists are essentially essential, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So lobbyists are clearly, they're our First Amendment right, obviously, but lobbyists perform a important function and are a good asset to have, as part of the legislative process. And essentially, we work as advocates, and we work on specific issues, and we become experts in those issues, so to speak, and help advocate to our legislative body to either push legislation through, or maybe it's something that we need to have a defensive posture on and prevent legislation from passing, or even if it's maybe an existing bill that needs to be updated or altered, we can work on that as well. But it's definitely a necessary function to have. Here in Georgia, we have 236 members of the legislative body. They are elected to 2-year terms and are from all over the state. And, when you think about, a new legislator, it can be nearly impossible to read through hundreds of bills that may come before them each legislative session, and to be, experts in all of those different areas and issue subjects. And so a lobbyist is really just an advocate and can help kind of be a bridge and do some information sharing between constituent groups. And so they're
Absolutely.
Definitely an important part of the process.
I couldn't agree more. And you're the principal of Excelsis Public Strategies, LLC. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So tell us a little bit about Excelsis. And KELLEN, what exactly do you do? And what does Excelsis Public Strategies focus on?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I got, my startup, I started in politics, working on campaigns, and then from there worked in the governor's office of workforce development, and actually worked on some veteran issues. I worked on employment issues and economic development, and helping, really to work on policy to help get our veterans back to work. So there's definitely some tie-in there. And then after that, started my lobbying career. I worked in-house as an in-house lobbyist for the Georgia Lottery Corporation. So I worked on issues for our state's beloved Hope Scholarship and pre-K program, and did both state and federal affairs. And then opened my own shop and the principal of Excelsis Public Strategies, and work on a myriad of different issues, but everything from taxation, education, workforce and economic development, worked on policy issues in regards to human trafficking, regulated industries, broadband. So, really a little bit of everything. But I definitely got my, feet wet. I majored in broadcast journalism and political science, and got my start working on campaigns and really built from there. But, I love being a lobbyist. I love being a part of the process. It's a very relationship-oriented career. It's a lot about building relationships and getting to know our legislators and what's important to them and what's important to their constituents and their districts. And I love to talk. So it was, I think it was a good career choice for me because it's really the best of both worlds, getting to talk and share information and advocate and also get to know a lot of different people.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And sometimes I often feel like I myself am a lobbyist, albeit unpaid, because that's really where Veterans for Cannabis was born out of, was the lobbying efforts that it was originally, me personally saying, hey, help me find a better way for myself to take care of myself and get well, right? Because the VA wasn't giving us the choice we needed. But then it just became something much bigger and has grown into what we are now, which is still essentially just lobbying. That's all we're doing. We're advocating. And that's what I wanted to make sure that our listeners, they understand that you're really an advocate. You're not necessarily the, quote, and I'm doing my air quotes now, lobbyist. You're really an advocate for people who come to you, have an issue they want solved, and you voice that. You become extremely knowledgeable in that issue, know those talking points, and then you fight for them.
Yes, that's exactly right. Yeah, I could have said it better myself. That's exactly right.
Perfect. Well,
really
I want to go a little bit.
Education.
Oh my gosh, so true. I want to go a little bit back into your past, and when you were working there with the Governor's Office of Workforce Development, I believe you worked on a couple of veteran programs, and I think you mentioned it earlier. But really, the Troops to Trucks. Can you just talk about that real quickly, high level, what that was and what that program entails here in Georgia?
Yeah, so Troops to Trucks was a partnership with the Georgia Department of Driver Services as well as the Governor's Office of Workforce Development. And it really was to basically expedite the licensing process for service members who wanted to come back and obtain their CDL. And I know a lot of times, military licenses and then state licenses don't always match up. And certainly with veterans and you're coming from, different states or even internationally, we don't want our service members to have to go back through that training process when they really already have the training, to get to work immediately. And we discovered that there was really a bridge. I mean, there was really a gap in the system that we already had these folks who had the training to have CDLs, and they didn't need to go all the way back through that training process. And so,
well, amen to that.
There you go. And hopefully, Troops to Trucks was a start. It actually was started, I believe, in Virginia, and some other states had done similar programs. And so we were able to kind of expand on that, bring it to Georgia. And then, I think that that's really just the start. I think that there are many, other licenses, other military licenses that are held where, you really don't need to go back through all that retraining and recertification. We just need to get our folks back to work. And so that was kind of the start of that program. And I believe that they have, since, obviously I'm not in the Office of Workforce Development anymore. I believe the Governor's Office of Workforce Development is actually under the Technical College System of Georgia now. And I think that they have continued their veteran programs. But, that was something fun to work on. It was exciting, to get our service members back to work and get our Georgians back to work, and was something that was so necessary.
I think from my standpoint personally, when I look at it, it's just a no-brainer. You've got, just like our nurses and our physicians, they are state certified. Why in the hell are they not nationally certified? And now they do
right.
have that, but they had to do the same trash and pay those additional licensing fees. Now I get it. The state sees shortfalls in budget, right? So what they want that license and certification to come from the state. However, it shouldn't be jumping through a bunch of hoops for it. And that Troops to Trucks program is really wonderful. And I think Georgia kind of falls in the middle to lower end, actually, when you talk about veteran benefits that we bring to the table. So I think one of the things that we're going to really focus on in the next few years is pushing for more positive impact from a veteran standpoint. And that's really where, people just like you come into play. We can talk about it all day long and what we want done and how we want to make positive change. But really, the men and women just like you that are serving at the Capitol and they're every single day during the legislative session, you're the ones who really get that done, right?
We're definitely an important part of the process, as well as the folks in those entities who come down as well to talk about the programs that they represent. It's a little different now in COVID times.
Sure.
There's definitely heightened security at the Capitol, and you still as a member of the public can come into the Capitol. It's just a little different now. There's more security, kind of temperature screenings. They're doing some COVID screenings. But other than that, lobbyists are definitely an important part of the process, as well as just, constituents. Elected officials love to hear from people in their district on whatever issue it is that's important for them. If you are a voting person in their district, they certainly want to hear from you.
Absolutely. And I think that's the real key is for all of our listeners here on this Veterans for Cannabis podcast, and we are extremely excited and honored to have Kellen Carr, the principal of Excelsis Public Strategies, here with us today as our guest. But the key is, get involved, right? Don't just rely on the people just like yourself who are there at the Capitol every single day to carry a message that you may not be getting, right? You may have somebody sitting in backwoods Georgia somewhere, and they're saying one thing, but that message is not getting to you because they're just not voicing that. So get to the Capitol, or at least send an email, send a letter, make a phone call to your elected official because they do work for you. And we preach this all the time.
That's exactly right, Joshua. And, I say, if you're wondering kind of where to start and how to get involved in the process, the best thing you can do is get to know your local state rep and your local state senator, because you are a constituent. You live in their district. That's always a great starting point is reaching out to those folks in their district offices and ask if, you can, swing by an event or meet them for coffee or, get to know them better and not just share your issues, but hear, what are the issues that are important to them and what are other issues that are important, to your district, to your home community. But I think starting kind of branching out from there, those are great first relationships to start. Are the
right.
ones in your county. The other thing you can do as well is if there's certain issues that you want to track or that you would like to reach out on is, look up, who serves on the committees of the issues that are important to you. For example, if you are interested in cannabis, then you're going to want to look at the regulated industries committees. If you are interested in, something that is healthcare related, then, health and human services. If you're interested in a tax credit, then you're going to want to look at who's on the Ways and Means Committee. And so also just understanding whatever issue it is that's important to you, who are the folks that serve on those committees and reaching out to them. And so, that's key. But I always say start with your local state rep and your local state senator because most likely they're willing to sit down with you if you are a voter and you live and work in their area. And so I always say that that's a good place to start. And the other thing that I would say to help people get engaged in the political process is also get involved in the election cycle.
Yes.
Our members, there's 236 members, they serve 2-year terms. A great way to meet people is get involved in the election process, get to know them on the campaign, determine who you're going to support, based on, your values and the things that are important to you. But getting to know them on the campaign and getting to know them in the election cycle is important because we have folks, this is a 2-year term. These positions change. Some of them stay the same, but certainly there have been changes over the past several years. So getting involved early is important as well.
I could not agree more. I think the thing that we have to say, Kellen, I wish we didn't have to, is you can't approach them and say, damn it, you're not doing a good job. I want you to do it my way. There's tact. You have to utilize tact and respect to actually get things done. And I think that's a lot of times where, people get frustrated with the process is they want to call up and berate that elected official. They want to just bang them in the head and, beat them over the back for the things they're not doing right. Well, don't do that. You gotta be nice. You gotta be respectful. You have to actually try to sit down and have open dialogue with people. And I think you and I have had the conversation offline.